If you're an empty nester, you aren't alone. There are approximately 25 million parents in our country whose children are off at college or living on their own. And while some embrace this new chapter of their lives, others kind of dread it. In her book, Refeathering the Empty Nest, Wendy Aronsoon talks about how you can enjoy this phase of life and have a better relationship with your child. Wendy is also a licensed psychotherapist and joins us here on Connecticut Style. Nice to have you here.
Well, thank you. Nice to be here.
So you're a mom, and have you gone through the empty nest syndrome yet?
I am in the process of. Our youngest left the nest 2 years ago, and so I'm a work in progress.
And I'm not a parent yet, but I understand being someone's mom or dad really kind of takes over your identity. I think my mom is just Teresa's mom and has been that way for 30 years.
Right.
So how are you able to separate yourself, maybe find yourself?
That's a really good question. You know, you spend 18 plus years raising your children, and that's the identity you have.
Right.
Whether you're a stay-at-home mom or whether you're a working mom or a stay-at-home dad or a working dad, conversely, and developing your own interests aside from your children are really, really important so that your identity is not completely tied up in your children. So that's a really important thing.
In the book, you talk about helicopter parent and precision parenting. Why don't we explain what that means?
Well, helicopter parent was coined back in the 60s, and those were the parents who really hovered and did everything for their children. So they were just there 24/7, just on top, just as a helicopter would be.
Sure.
And my feeling is that we need to land as parents and not be helicopter parents. We need to be precision parents. And with that, I mean, it's a more mindful parenting, and we have a laser-like focus, and hopefully we don't do things for our children, we do things with our children. Hopefully when they get older we can be Socratic with them in helping them come to their own conclusions and develop autonomously.
Sure, and you mentioned a shift, and there are several phases that go along with that shift.
Yes, there are. In the book I talk about 3 phases, and one phase is the anticipation stage. And that phase can start as early as when they get their driver's license, for example, because this would be a beginning of independence. Often you will see during college applications and visiting college, you have the anticipation stage. And that stage can be really exciting. It can be really scary for you as a parent. It can be exciting and scary for your child. And the launching phase, and that is actually when they leave for college or the military, or they just leave home to live independently. And the resolution phase is, in my mind, when we as parents or a parent come to a different rhythm in life, and their landscape could look very different, and they have their interests, and they have developed a different and more progressed relationship with their young adult children.
Sure. Any way you look at it, the shift is going to be emotional, whether you look forward to it or you're kind of dreading it. What are some ways parents can deal with those emotions?
Okay, but going back for a moment, and it is emotional, but it comes in ebbs and flows, and so that's a really important part to understand, that it's not just like turning on and off a light switch. Some of the ways that parents can deal with it is, again, by developing their own interests and by being mindful about allowing your child to become more independent and you more independent from them. If you are married, focus on your marriage, have a bucket list.
It's true.
You
Maybe
know,
do some travel. You don't have to have kids home anymore,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely. You know, I often hear in my office, you know, how marriage has taken a back seat in the car. It's time for the marriage to get in the front seat.
Sure.
And so your spouse, or if you're not married and you have a romantic relationship, to really focus on that. And it doesn't mean you have to be attached at the hip. It simply means that you can look forward to doing things together and developing yourself individually.
Sure. And how are baby boomer parents kind of dealing with this shift compared to other generations?
Well, again, I look at the precision parenting because I think we are such different parents than our predecessors. We're just front and center so much more. Years ago, fathers were not at the football games and baseball games and soccer games or choirs. So you just pretty much saw mothers behind the line. Today you see both mothers and fathers pretty equally. And so there's so much more involvement, which is good news, bad news, because it then makes all of a sudden your job description changes, so you have to take a step back. And I think generations before us probably weren't as involved in their children's lives as we are.
And before we go, Wendy, are you enjoying the empty nest, or are you one of those moms that are kind of dreading it?
I love it.
You do?
I love it, and I love it for so many reasons, because my husband and I are really enjoying being with our young adult children and enjoying that relationship. I loved being a parent. It was the greatest gift of all. But being at this phase is both exciting and sometimes it's sad. I love having kids home and everybody
back.
home. Yes,
sure
they will be back.
Right?
Yes, they will.
Well, thanks so much for being
thank
here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Sure. The name of the book again is Refeathering the Empty Nest by Wendy Arnsoon, and we can find it just about everywhere.
Yes, you can find it on Amazon or on my website, and there's a link for that on the book.
Very good.
All right.
Sounds great.